Quiero agradecerte por permanecer en este canal y en esta gran comunidad gestáltica. Yo soy Dani Mora, quien te ha venido acompañando en este proyecto. Hoy traigo una nueva entrevista que lleva por título Terapia Grupal Gestáltica en el tratamiento del trauma continuo. Nos va a estar acompañando desde Ucrania Oleksii Vinohradov. Él es psicólogo y terapeuta gestáltico, además de supervisor y formador en terapia Gestalt. Es miembro de organizaciones gestálticas ucranianas, también miembro del Instituto de Terapia Gestalt de Nueva York y de Gestalt Australia y Nueva Zelanda. Su práctica profesional integra el trabajo clínico individual, la conducción de grupos terapéuticos y la formación de nuevos terapeutas en el marco de la Asociación Nacional de Terapeutas Gestálticos de Ucrania. Es fundador de Gestalt Club, una comunidad en línea dedicada a la divulgación de la terapia Gestalt. Asimismo, creó Gestalt Practice, un proyecto orientado al desarrollo profesional de terapeutas a través de seminarios web, clases magistrales y conferencias especializadas. Desarrolla contenido de divulgación en su canal de YouTube, donde comparte reflexiones clínicas y teóricas sobre la práctica gestáltica. Es autor de diversos artículos en el campo de la psicoterapia y actualmente se encuentra involucrado en la investigación científica con el objetivo de fortalecer la evidencia en terapia Gestalt. Reside en Ucrania y en el contexto actual de guerra ha orientado parte de su trabajo al desarrollo de investigaciones psicoterapéuticas para personas afectadas por el trauma continuo. Así que vamos a darle la bienvenida a este tema que por supuesto es sumamente sensible y que mueve muchísimas fibras, pero de alguna manera también quería proponer una Gestalt en contexto. Así que espero puedas disfrutar de esta entrevista y de todo el componente clínico alrededor de ella. Hoy estamos con Oleksii para hablar de un tema sumamente valioso para la clínica actual que tiene que ver con la terapia grupal gestáltica en el tratamiento del trauma continuo. Entonces, bueno, antes de comenzar, Oleksii, quiero saber cómo estás y que nos cuentes un poco acerca de tu proyecto de Gestalt Practice.
Yeah. So hello and thank you for inviting me to this interview. And before we start to get into clinical material, I'd like to share about actually directly from the experience we will talk about today. So for several years, I've been running an international project called Gestalt Practicum or Gestalt Practics. And it's an online professional space for therapists, usually for Gestalt therapists. And the idea behind it is quite simple, but I think quite powerful. We learn best by watching real work. So the core of Gestalt practice is live demonstration therapy sessions and supervision conducted by experienced trainers. And not just local ones, but international figures of Gestalt therapy world, like Roella Frank, Dan Bloom, Peter Philipson, Jay Levine, Aria Burstein, and many others famous names. So what actually happens in this project? The therapist works with a client, a real client on a group, when a group watching this session with just with the camera turned off. And then after work, therapists share their vision, their experience, what did they do, why did they do, and what happened in these sessions of the therapist perspective. And then there is some conversation, questions, hypotheses, and so on about this session. So this live format work is interesting, that you can see a real session and then you can discuss this with experienced Gestalt therapist. And also, if someone can't be in therapy session online, in this work online, he can watch it in record, and we have quite a lot recording of these sessions. Why I mention this here? Because we will speak about working with a client, with group perspective mostly, and I will share how it's going with working in ongoing trauma.
Claro, no podía dejar de preguntar por este proyecto que me parece de mucho valor clínico, ¿no? Entonces, comencemos con la primera pregunta que tiene que ver con cómo definirías el trabajo gestáltico en trauma continuo y qué particularidades ha traído la guerra en Ucrania al trabajo grupal.
Yeah, I will start from very beginning that probably everyone in the world knows that in 2022, Russian became a full invasion towards Ukraine. It's a full-scale war, and we Ukrainians live in this war last 4 years in a full-scale war. I mean, and of course, it's a big situation for us. It influenced us, and the main thing I want to share is that we live not in a when trauma ends, we live in ongoing trauma situation. And usually we as a Gestalt therapist, as a psychotherapist, working with a past trauma experience. So something happened in childhood, in the past life, and we try to help a client to resolve the situation, to decrease his pain. But we working in the situation when dangers is a figure, is something we thinking about it quite regular. It's something that can be today figure, but it's always a ground question. Yeah, am I safe? What's happened now? We live in situation where there is a lot uncertainty. People don't know what will happen tomorrow, what will happen in the months, in the year, where will they live, how would they live, and so on. And it's continuous traumatic stress. So from Gestalt perspective, this fundamentally changed the nature of our work, because this situation when people are always in a background danger, they shape their behavior, their emotions, their life quite dramatically. And what the war has brought to group work specifically, and that the social field is radically fragmented. So migration, losses, danger situation in life, this is the everyday fabric of relationship and of fabric of life, and it's quite dramatic influence to relationship with all socium, not only with personal relationship, but with all country, I think. So people lose their communities, people lose their families, or maybe they lose connection with their families. So they split across the borders, split across the world. They lose their professional integrity, and actually there is a lot of losses. And this situation when there is a lot of losses and every day can be more losses, this is the maybe most common thing for every people in Ukraine. And I'm talking not about physical losses when you lost your closest one, but losses in very different perspectives. People loses work, friends, home, community. Actually, they live abroad, so they lose their country and so on. And this is background where we need to work. And also, I want to mention about ethical and political dimension, because it becomes quite inseparable from the clinical work. It's also unusual situation for work without war. Yeah, and I will tell about it a little later.
Bien, ¿y qué significa desde la terapia Gestalt trabajar con personas que no están después del trauma, sino que siguen viviendo dentro de un trauma continuo?
Yeah, it's a good question and the main question. So the therapeutic task becomes to how do we maintain and restore the capacity of contact of our clients, of people in a field where contact is constantly being disrupted. And this contact disrupted in many different social levels. So it means we need to accept that the ground of our work is fundamentally unstable, and that this is not a problem to be solved in therapeutic group, because we can't solve this problem, but it's reality we need to be met. In classical trauma work, the therapeutic arc moves from destabilization situation toward restabilization situation. And there isn't like a hope of clients that I will process this situation, I will integrate it, and I will return to some baseline of safety of my life. Yeah, I will feel pain less. But in ongoing trauma, client can't have this kind of hope, at least a lot of hope. And from a Gestalt perspective, the entire field is organized around a threat. So background not safe, and there is a lot difficult situation, difficult process in society generally. So people feel angriness, hateness, hopeless, such difficult emotions as shame, as tiredness. And of course, I'm talking both about individual people and social as a whole. Yeah, and it's a field where we're working of. And the task of group work is to restore ability of participant to have a contact, because this ability very strongly, like it's very difficult to have a conflict when persons have a lot of affective emotions. Yeah, they're tired, and in the same time they overwhelmed of emotions, and there is many social problems, social situation, and a lot of aggression towards enemy inside of our social socium. Yeah, so it's very difficult to be in a contact like before war, and the main task of group to restore this ability of contact.
Bien, y desde una perspectiva de campo, ¿cómo se comprende el sufrimiento enmarcado en el trauma continuo?
Here I want to speak about Gianni Francesetti's field perspective on psychopathology, where he told us that suffering is not located inside the individual. It's emerged at the contact boundary between the person and the field. And when we say someone is suffering, we describing a quality of the field, not just a like internal feeling. And in Ukraine context, the field is saturated with loss, danger, uncertainty, and of course a lot of unsafety and suffering. And this is, I have a lot concrete examples to describe this, like electricity could cuts, and we have a quite difficult winter without electricity, heat, and so on. Now actually it's okay with this. And we have air raids, sirens that could interrupt sleep, or could be real danger. Rockets and drones bombs Ukraine quite often, and people have news that their friends who serve in the military, they died, or civilians also died. So, and I can go on. There is a lot like bad news, and we should face of it. Yeah, and of course it's a lot of pain in the field, like field overwhelmed with pain. And this means is that much of what might look like individual pathology, I mean overreaction, affects, or individual reaction, where in peace life it would be very strange or very uncomfortable or like pathologically. So emotional numbing, dissociative episodes, somatic numbing is actually a coherence field response. So it's a normal reaction in a normal field, in a normal war situation. So the organism is adjusting to field, to general treating. Yes, and the group then serves as a microfield that can be organized differently from the larger macrofield. So within the group, resources can be replenished. Belonging, recognition, shared affect, co-regulation affect. This becomes available situation in group, which can help people to feel more safety. I mean, at least in a situation when group goes on, and to feel more relaxed and to feel, I think, more restored and more supported from another members of group. And also this work with group, we have a quite not large group, like 10 people, 15 people, maybe 80 people, but people who suffer less during group work, who feel more stable, the people will go to the broader social situation, and they also help to co-regulate the social effect also. So working with group helps not only individuals, but in not in direct way, also help to socium generally. And one thing I want to emphasize, that it's very important that group work should not be focused only on pain. Yeah, there is a lot of pain everywhere in the field, and would be, I think, a mistake to talk only about pain, about losses, and about difficult feelings, because it creates some narrative that there is only pain in the world, in the field. Yeah, but it's not true. Despite the war, despite the pain, losses, and difficult situation, in the same time, we have situation like every people have, like we can fall in love, we can feel good weather, we can have a good news, something good can happen in the same time. And it's very important to see the both sides of this specific, I suppose, difficult life.
Claro. ¿Y qué particularidades adquieren las funciones del self y el proceso de contacto en condiciones de trauma continuo?
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. I think change everything. First of all, the id function has both a reduced sensitivity and the same way it becomes very sensitive in another situation. I can share some example, like if someone can hear a siren that rockets go somewhere to Ukraine, no one knows where exactly it goes. So this situation where sensitivity is quite reduced, people can think, okay, it's so usual situation in my life, every second day there is some explosion, so I will not react a lot, even if it's a threat. But in another situation, when someone create some sound like this, people can be very sensitive. But it's not real danger, it's just a sound which sounds like explosion. So I believe this change of sensitivity, both the creative adjustment to a field, difficult field, war field. And at the same time, it's something which not helps people. And somehow it's something which cause suffering, I think, because people can't feel their bodily sensations, they needs well. Yeah, there is a lot of interruption in function. Talking about personality functions, there is a lot of internal conflicts. So actually, we all have internal conflicts. We want here and here, we want this and this at the same time, and it's okay. But in war situations, these conflicts became very extremely high tense because every decision which person could make is very important and its influence toward whole life. Like there is a lot of difficult decision to be in your home and in a country in war, or to go abroad. There is no your home, but you will be in safe situation. Yeah, to go to the army and serve and fight back, or to not to go to the army to save your life, and to, I don't know, where exactly live, how to manage your daily situation. So every decision is quite difficult. And also there is a big questions about belonging. Who am I? Who am I, and what is my role in my life, in my family, in my country, in my society, like, I don't know, like a city, like a house, yeah, about neighbors. So this issue increases, these conflicts became strong, and the person need a lot of energy to make deal with it. Yeah, so that's why not usually, but often people just ignore it, just trying to not aware this big amount of conflicts. And about ego function is overloaded actually, because there is a lot of signals from overloaded personality, from this internal conflicts, from a bodily, from it function, like sometimes we don't feel fair where we need to be fair, to fear. Yeah, and sometimes we feel like too much emotion in situation which not so bad. Yeah, and ego function is overwhelmed because I didn't say about this. There is a lot of exhaustion on the field. So there is a 4 years of war, and people just tired to resolve some issues, to do everything to save their life, to think about future, about anything. So there is a very small energy to ego function. Yeah, and that's why people tries to, I don't know, they tries to make really important decision, not decision what we could make in peaceful life. So generally, 3 of this function is overwhelmed, yeah, and influence directly to the person, and group is the place where person can took and give support in this in all these functions. For example, very important things is co-shared difficult emotion or co-shared affect. When someone in a group shares their experience, like, I saw the drone explode in 500 meters near my house. It was so dangerous, so scary, and people of a group can share the same emotions. Like, I know what you're talking about. I felt something else, but similar in some way. Yeah, and the situation becomes tense to be lower and helps people to manage their feelings. And the same about inner conflicts. I hope I answer your question.
Of course. ¿Y qué cambios observa en la sensibilidad emocional y corporal de los participantes a lo largo del proceso grupal? ¿Y cómo contribuye el grupo a restaurar la capacidad de contacto en contextos marcados por la fragmentación, la desconfianza y la pérdida de vínculos?
So I told about it a little bit before, and I think the group work quite different in this situation. So first of all, there is a big issue of danger, and also to understand who is enemy and who is not, because Russia literally doing some terroristic act, and they pay money for Ukrainians who help them. Yeah, and some Ukrainians, it's a very small number. Yeah, but they could support Russian actions. So, and also in a group, it's very important to understand is the enemies. Of course, generally there is no enemy in a group, because our society quite strong against Russia aggressions, and quite united. But at the same time, people need to filter their emotions, what they telling, because there is a risk to tell something that will cause pain to another person. Like, for example, if woman says that I was in the movie with my husband, it was so nice, so romantic in 14 February, we love each other so much. It can cause pain to another woman in a group who lost her husband, and she loved him, and she can't say the same. Yeah, and you need to to scan the field all times to understand what you could say and what you could not to say. This is a matter of safety in the group, and I think this very important to aware of trainer, of facilitator of the group, aware of this issue, that people think twice what they could say and what they could not say, because it's like a minefield. Yeah. So also people have a lot of dissociation processes, like someone experience a very difficult experience, for example, living in occupation where Russian soldiers tried to kill and killed civilians, and like person need to hide themselves, his or her children, to help neighbors and to survive without, I don't know, without food, electricity, and so on. It's a very difficult situation. Or people who were in a city which was bombed, or it's not necessarily about physical danger. Yeah, also people who went abroad, they also suffering, because it's not easy to left your home where you live all your life and go somewhere when you have you don't know anyone. Yes, you don't know this culture, you have no friends, and it's quite difficult situation. It's also could be traumatic experience. So the creative adjustment to live in this field is to dissociate a lot of feelings. Dissociate fear, because it's very exhausting to fear all times when Russia bombed Ukraine, because it's every day or every 2 days. Yeah, you can't feel a lot of fear every second day in your life. Yeah, you dissociate this feeling. Hopeless and memory of difficult experiences. And it creates some bodily numbness. Yeah, people like they don't move a lot, and their body became like a bit frozen. And the main goal of facilitator is to help unfroze people, but very, very carefully, because if you speak with someone with difficult emotion and he became unpack his story, his traumatic situation. It's of course influence to another people, and they also feel they remember their experience and also feel difficult situation. It's very important to have one difficult stories in one time. Not to hold the field of group, not to become the group where is a lot of difficult emotions, affects, and people feel overwhelmed.
Bien, y siguiendo esa línea, que creo que pudiera ser una gran duda para todos, es cómo se transforma el rol del terapeuta cuando él o ella también está inmerso en el mismo campo traumático que los participantes.
Yeah, it's important questions because Gestalt therapists feel the same feeling. They also usually in a danger, or if they went abroad, they also feel a lack of socialization, a lack of contact, of support. And also Gestalt therapist could experience difficult war experience, and the task is double. First task is to share the experience when situation is right. Of course, not all experience we need to share, but to share the experience to support group members. And it could be quite a big support, because when we speak about traumatic experience, people usually felt that another people who didn't survive, who didn't have this experience, they couldn't understand them. So when therapists share the experience, it's create like a common field. It's like, I really understand what you're talking about. And it helps, it's a big support for participants. But at the same time, it's very important to hold his own emotions, because to know his red zones, what topics is okay, but what topics is not okay, what topics brings to explosions of facilitator, because he also has his inner conflicts, his like effects in some situation, and it's not so easy. That's why I believe when there is a two therapist, pair of therapist, co-therapist, it's much easier to work, because if some therapist felt something difficult, another therapist can hold this group when first like breathe and grounding themselves. And also co-therapists help, they can see the group work of different perspectives, and it's very important to create more quality in group work. And also, according to my research about working conditions of Gestalt therapists in Ukraine, there is about 36% of Ukrainian Gestalt therapists who regularly lead groups, and 24% of therapists lead particularly Gestalt therapeutic group. So it's a big number, because in Ukraine there is more than 10,000 therapists, so quite a big number. And when we talking about group work, we talking about 1,000 of therapeutic groups, which leads in the right now, like in the same time. So this work extremely popular in Ukraine, Gestalt group work, and also Gestalt therapy also popular according to my another research. It's one of the most popular therapeutic approach in Ukraine.
Bien, ¿y qué orientaciones clave daría para el trabajo grupal en contextos de trauma continuo y qué es esencial tener en cuenta en este abordaje?
Yes, there is several things which very important to work with a group with ongoing trauma. So first of all, it's a clinical competence beyond the norm. Working in an ongoing traumatic field, you will encounter acute states like dissociative episodes, panic attacks, intense somatic reaction, borderline and psychotic processes, and so on. So you need to distinguish them. You need to recognize this situation and understand what's the difference between them. And of course, you need to know grounding techniques. It's like first aid of this situation. And it's good if you know how to work with some dissociative episodes or panic attack or situation with difficult feelings or statements. And also it's important to recognize if there is a psychotic processes in the group, and to have colleagues where you can send this client to some psychiatrist to help him. So you need to know how to handle these difficult topics, and it's need to know quite a lot clinical situation, big clinical competence. Also, maybe I can describe an example where participant dissociated deeply during a session, sliding to the floor and freezing and becoming nearly unresponsible. And when therapists say, "How are you feeling? What's happening with you?" that participant just freeze and stay silent. And in this situation, therapists maintain a verbal contact with the client for quite a long time, for 5 or maybe 10 minutes. He says something like, "I hear you, I see you, I see that you feel probably some strong emotion. I see that it's not easy to you to move, that you try to hide your eyes, to hide your head in the knees. And but I'm with you. I will say something more, and you can like grab to my voice, not to be alone with these strong feelings." In a like 7 or 10 minutes, that client who was just frozen, and he became to sobbing and to cry. Yeah, and was quite expressive situation. It was a big crying, and then client told about his very difficult and dramatic experience where he was in the war. And after some period of time, this client became answer to facilitators' questions, and had opportunity to speak, to answer, to behave like a normal. And after that, he said a lot of thanks to this work, because he told a story which he didn't told to anyone else. It was first time and he told this story. And it was impressive situation, and group was impressed, and group also became to share when it was emotional feedback. Group became to share their experiences, and therapists say, "Okay, you need to share only your emotions, not your experience, because we need to have one difficult stories in one time. We don't want to overwhelm our group of so strong emotions." So that's one example of different situation in the group. And I'm talking about clinical competence, and also I told about co-therapy, that it's very important not to work alone in a group. And also it's important to have a full ecosystem of professional support. Yeah, because as I said, therapists also suffering, also they also exhausted, they also has a lot of tension, fear, angriness, hateness, I don't know, unstable situation. And usually Ukrainian therapists in the same time going to individual therapy, going to individual supervision, going to some educational project, for example, how to work with trauma, how to work with dissociation, and so on. In the same time, therapists group therapist may go to the supervision of group therapy, which not the same as his regular supervision, and they can participate in intervisional group. Yeah, it's called peer supervision group, and maybe something else. So it's quite a lot of different kind of groups, different people in this group, and this create a situation when therapist can feel that he's in the field of supportive field of another therapist. Some of them suffering like he, and they could understand him very well, and some of them not in the same field. For example, international therapist, and they could not understand all aspects of this pain, but they has a lot of energy, a lot of support. They not exhausted, and they can help. So in this situation, I want to say a big thank you and big thanks for international community, which really do a lot to support Ukrainian Gestalt therapists. They create a lot of different groups, and some of them was without payment, for free. So it was very important. Also, I want to say one more things about clarity of ethical and political position. So you cannot be neutral in a field of mass violence. Attempting neutrality is experienced as denying of reality or covert support for the aggression. So you can say all people suffering, both Ukrainians and Russian, because there is a big difference. Aggressor who's suffering, also they in a war, they dying. I mean, Russians also dying. They have economic problem as Ukrainians, but they are aggressions, and it's a very big mistake to treat them both as the same. Yeah, because Ukraine suffering because of aggression, and Russian suffering because they are aggressors. And before war, it was some kind of neutral statement, neutral position that I'm not about politic situation. I can hold all your politic views. It's not about psychotherapy. You can have every position in this field, in this topic, but not when you inside the war. It's very important to distinguish aggressor and people who suffering from aggression, acknowledgement of Russian aggression, respect for Ukrainian sovereignty, and not tolerance of justifying of violence.
Y para cerrar, algo quizás muy corto, ¿no? ¿Qué aprendizaje cree que esta experiencia puede aportar a la psicoterapia en otros contextos de crisis o inestabilidad en el mundo?
Yeah, right. The world is changing. There is a lot instability in the world, and it increases quite rapidly, actually. So, first of all, it's for me personally, it's the most important thing that Gestalt therapy work good with ongoing trauma field, yeah, with ongoing stress. Generally, people think that it's more CBT working or another approaches, but I believe Gestalt therapy work good because of the essence of Gestalt therapy. It's the contact. So when war destroy the fabric of contacting between people, your friends went abroad, your friends in the war, you can just call them and speak. You can just go to cafe with some of them, just go to cafe and, I don't know, speak about your day. Yeah, maybe part of your family also not near you. Yeah, some could die. Some institutes also not so strong, social institutes. So this ability to restore contact is what is essence of Gestalt therapy, is the reason why Gestalt therapy works in ongoing trauma, because we need not just techniques how to stabilize my mood, my situation. It's important, especially if it's a difficult, strong feelings. Yeah, but it's just like first aid of situation. Real real treatment is when we restoring this ability to contact, to has support from other people, to be recognized from other people, to have opportunity to share my feelings with another and to be seen from another and see another person. And actually, I think the group is unique, powerful modality for collective crises, not only for war, maybe in other crises. And also, right now, Ukraine scientists, Gestalt therapy scientists, create some papers, not papers, but some works. They try to understand how Gestalt therapy works with traumatic field from scientific perspective. Yeah. So they create some experience and try to understand it better. And I think what's important also that Gestalt therapist position requires rethinking about Gestalt therapist ethical position, because I saw situation when some institution like saying that there is no difference between people who suffering, between Russians and Ukraine. I saw that some people creates group where there is in the same time in one group people from Ukraine and from Russia, and I believe it's a huge mistake, because in this situation people from Ukraine can attack Russians and it's not safe for Russians, and in the same time people from Ukraine need to hold difficult feeling of aggressors, of people from country of aggression, and I don't think it's a good idea to create such groups. And also, and I think in the end, I think we need to explore more this situation. We need to understand better how Gestalt therapy group, how individual Gestalt therapy work with trauma and with ongoing trauma.
Bueno, muchísimas gracias por compartir ese tema tan sensible, pero para mí era importante también generar una Gestalt en contexto, ¿no? Así que un gran saludo desde acá, desde Colombia, y bueno, espero se encuentre muy bien en medio de todo y nos seguimos viendo en esta comunidad gestáltica.
Okay, and I want to close with to say something personal, that working as a group therapist during the war actually has been the most demanding professional experience of my life, and also the most meaningful. And thank you for opportunity to share my experience here.
Thanks to you for sharing your experience with us. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Chao.
Bye-bye.